Hello, 6th graders. Welcome to Big Ideas Math, Section 1.1 Lesson, Whole Number Operations. Pause while you write Section 1.1 Lesson in your math notebook. Pause while you write today's lesson objective in your math notebook. I will be able to recognize which operation to choose when solving real-life problems by determining correct operations and performing them using whole numbers. Go to page 4 in your math textbook, and that's where we'll start our lesson. The first thing you need to do is look at the table at the top of the page and copy that into your notes. That's going to be something that's going to be important for you to have and to refer to as we work through this unit. So pause while you copy that table into your notes. Now we'll look at example 1, adding and subtracting whole numbers. The bar graph shows the attendance at a 3-day art festival. Letter A asks us what is the total attendance for the art festival. So the word total tells us that it says you want to find the total attendance. So the word total tells us that we are finding the sum of the attendance. So in this case, the phrase total attendance indicates we need to find the sum of the daily attendances. So we look at the 3 numbers on the bar graph, and we're going to add those up. And the book reminds us that we need to line up the numbers by their place values and then add. So it gives us what the addition should look like. So if you were required to add this up yourself, you would line up your numbers nice and neat so that all your ones places and tens places and so on would be lined up correctly. And then you would add and you would regroup as you needed to as you went across. And so your total attendance would be 9,591 people. Let's look at letter B. What is the increase in attendance from day 1 to day 2? You want to find how many more people, there's that phrase, many more, that we talked about yesterday, attended on day 2 than on day 1. In this case, the phrase how many more indicates you need to find the difference of the attendance on day 2 and day 1. So anytime we talk about the difference, that means we're subtracting. So if you look back up at the table at the top of the page, that means we're subtracting. Once again, we need to line up the numbers by their place values and then subtract and regroup as necessary. So the increase in attendance from day 1 to day 2 is 575 people. Remember, as I go through this, to make note of any questions you have and then review the lesson again, and if you still have any questions, you need to be sure and indicate that on your exit slip and ask me tomorrow in class. Before we look at example 2, let's look at the study tip. It says, in example 2, you can use estimation to check the reasonableness of your answer. So 12 times 95, and that wavy equals sign means is about 12 times 100. So 12 times 100, we know equals 1200. So because 1200 is approximately 1400, which we'll get to in a minute, they say the answer is reasonable. Now let's look at our example. A school lunch contains 12 chicken nuggets. 95 students buy the lunch. What is the total number of chicken nuggets served? So before you start the problem, you should always estimate at least in your head. That's why I wanted to look at the study tip first. So you should always, at least in your head, go, oh, well, 12 times 100 is 1200, so my answer should be about 1200. You want to find the total number, there's that word total, of chicken nuggets in 95 groups of 12 chicken nuggets. The phrase 95 groups of 12 indicates you need to find the product of 95 and 12. So we've got the total and groups of 12. So total tells us we're adding, and groups of 12 tells us we're doing it over and over again. So that's repeated addition, which is multiplication. So 12 times 95, and we start by adding 5 times, or multiplying 5 times 2, which is 10, and we would carry that 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And then they didn't put a 0 down here as a placeholder, so I'm going to. We put our 0 down here as a placeholder. 9 times 2 is 18. We've got a 1 up there already carried from last time, so we're going to reuse it. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And then we start adding. 0 plus 0 is 0. 6 plus 8 is 14. And 1 plus 0 is 1. Didn't put my 1 there. There it is. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. So there were 1,140 chicken nuggets. It's close to our estimate, so that works. Moving on to page 5 in your textbook, we're going to look at example 3, dividing whole numbers with no remainder. You make 24 equal payments for a go-kart. You pay a total of $840. How much is each payment? So this is repeated subtraction because we want to find the number of groups of 24 in 840. So we're subtracting money from how much we owe each time we pay a little bit. The phrase groups of 24 in 840 indicates you need to find the quotient of 840 and 24. We're going to use long division to find the quotient. Decide where to write the first digit of the quotient. So before we do that, we're going to take a minute and I want you to look at this remember box and I want you to write that in your notebook. The dividend over the divisor equals the quotient. So quotient times divisor equals the dividend, because kids almost always have a hard time remembering the parts of a division problem. So write that in your notes so that you can remember that. So 840, we're dividing it by 24 equal payments, equals something. So we don't know how much our equal payments are. So it says do not use the hundreds place because 24 is greater than 8. So 24 doesn't go into 8. 24 goes into 84 a number of times. So it says use the 10 place because 24 is less than 84. So divide the tens and write the first digit of the quotient in the tens place. 24 goes into 84 3 times. So it says divide 84 by 24. There are 3 groups of 24 and 84, so that's why we put a 3 on the roof of our house. 3 times 24 is 72. So we're going to subtract 72 from 84, and there's 12 left over. Next, we bring down the 0, so we've got our 12 that was left over with a 0 on the end is 120. We're not done. We have to keep going. And 24 goes into 120 5 times. So multiply 5 and 24, which is 120. So we subtract 120 and we come up with a remainder of 0. The quotient of 840 and 24 is 35. So each payment is $35. And then we do this very important step. We check, we find the product of the quotient and the divisor. So we multiply the roof of our house times the backyard here, 35 times 24, and see if we get the inside of our house. And we do, we get 840. So there should never be any wrong answers to division problems. We should always be able to check our answer.
To earn credit for viewing your flipped lesson, you need to complete your notes in your interactive student notebook, complete your on-your-own questions in your interactive student notebook, and submit them in your Google form. Complete your Big Ideas math assignment in your math notebook, and submit that when it is 100% correct. Be sure to visit your teacher if you have any questions.